Welcome to Books versus Movies, the podcast where I set out to answer the age-old question, is the book really always better than the movie? I'm Yuvia, an actress and book lover based out of New York City, and today Orlando and I will be talking about The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson and its 1999 adaptation, The Haunting. So, let's just get the elephant out of the room. We are aware that there is a much better adaptation. We've seen the original adaptation from the 60s.
Yeah, 60s. My favorite, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, so we're aware that it exists. We recommend that's the one you watch. But this is what was available on streaming, the 1999 version. So that's the one that we're reviewing. And boy, oh boy, is it really bad. But I I I remember we saw the DVD, like my mom and I, when we were at like Target or something. This is a while ago. And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this movie for you because it reminds me of you." Because I loved that movie as a kid. That was like the first horror movie. Well, I was gonna say the first horror movie that I tolerated, but that's not true because I loved Chucky as a kid.
Yeah.
But like after my Chucky phase, my demented child phase was over, and I couldn't watch scary movies because I was scared of them. The Haunting was like the first one I remember watching and tolerating and liking. And I showed it to like my cousin. I showed it to everyone that was like coming over. I loved it. So like my mom was like, "It reminds me of you." And I was like, "I used to like that movie, but then I watched the original from the 60s and now I don't like this one anymore." And she's like, "Oh." So she didn't buy it for me, but now I'm kind of sad that I didn't let her buy it for me because it's really bad, but it holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of wish I had let her buy it for me.
And see, for me, that movie, oddly enough, gave me nightmares.
That's so funny because we're so switched now.
We were so opposites. But yeah, as a kid, I remember that movie giving me nightmares and my mom making fun of me because the movie gave me nightmares. Um, yeah, things changed a
Yeah.
lot.
But I will say I think I'm discovering that I don't hate horror films. I I do have my limits, as I've said. If there's demonic possession, devils, and I'm out. I'm out. Like that legitimately terrifies me. But I think it's not, and I don't like slashers. I just think, but you don't really like slashers either.
No, they're not my favorite genre. It's very rare that I see a slasher and I'm like, that was really good.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's not that I don't like horror. I think horror just irritates me because I hate when people are making dumb mistakes, and that's like what horror is.
And 90% of slasher movies is that
Yeah.
running the wrong way, getting yourself stuck in the basement. So it makes sense.
So if it's like more of a psychological thriller or psychological horror, that's what I'm really into. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about, The Haunting of Hill House and the Haunting. So, Orlando, why don't you tell everyone what The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson is about?
Yeah, The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, who has quickly become one of my favorite authors. It's about Eleanor, who gets an invitation to be a part of this experiment. This experiment by Dr. Montague,
Mhm.
right? Dr. Montague is basically gathering people who have either had a close encounter with death or some sort of paranormal life of some sort, to kind of conduct an experiment at Hill House. Um, Eleanor has just come fresh from the mother that she took care of passing away. She basically dedicated her life to this, and this is her first time doing things on her own. And things happen at the house, which we'll get into.
The 1999 version, The Haunting, directed by Jan de Bont, I think is how you pronounce it, or Jan de Bont, maybe. It stars Lily Taylor, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Liam Neeson, and Owen Wilson. And it's nothing what he just described. So these four participants are asked to go to Hill House, and they are unknowingly participating in a psychological study on mass hysteria, but they're told that it is a study on insomnia. But I discovered after watching the remake that there's a reason why it's so different.
Yeah.
And that is that due to the rights, due to copyright reasons, they were not allowed to officially call this a remake of The Haunting. They weren't even allowed to use any, like, pay homage to the original in any way. Like, they couldn't, because you know how a lot of like remakes have, like, they recreate the one iconic scene from the original.
Yeah.
So they were not allowed to like reference the original in any way. So essentially they had to say this was a new interpretation of The Haunting of Hill House, which is how they got away with it. But that's why it's so different, and that is why the adaptation is a really bad adaptation, because it has nothing to do with the book, really.
That makes me wonder because there is a TV series. There's the Netflix series, um, same title, right? Haunting of Hill House.
Mm.
Um, I started it. I only got 2 or 3 episodes in because I got frustrated that it was nothing at all like the book. But now I'm wondering if they had to deal with the same issue.
I don't think so. It's my understanding that that was Mike Flanagan. That was the direction he wanted to take it in. I could be wrong, but I think like the rights, the copyright infringement rights from the original already expired, so they could have
Okay.
made a faithful adaptation. But I think Mike Flanagan just wanted to do his own thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I haven't seen it. He tried watching it, but it is, everyone that's seen it and hasn't read the book says it's a really good TV show,
Yeah.
but because he said it was just such a bad adaptation, he wasn't really interested in watching it. And I don't know that I'm interested in watching it for that reason. That isn't to say that it's a bad show, it's just a bad adaptation.
I also had just finished reading the book for and then decided, oh, I just finished the book, not to watch the series. So I haven't tried watching it since having space between stuff. So I don't know. Maybe I need to give it again more time before trying again because now we're doing this. So it's still gonna be fresh in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. So, wow, well, I don't even know where to begin because this is so different. And I guess I'll start off by saying that yeah, the in the book, um, Eleanor, Theo, and Luke are all aware of what they're participating in. They weren't tricked, and the in the film, they're being told, as I said, that they're there to help them with their insomnia troubles, to maybe find a cure for their insomnia. It's a study on insomnia that's going to benefit them with better sleep. And then they end up discovering, once Eleanor starts getting screwed up mentally, that it's a study on mass hysteria.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I don't know. We'll go. I have my notes. I don't know how we want to go bit by bit.
Yeah, we can just talk about it. And like, so in the film also, um Liam Neeson is the one that plays the character of Dr. Montague, except in the film he's called Dr. Marrow.
Yeah.
And there are two characters in this film that weren't, well, so in the book there's it's the core group of four, of Theo, Eleanor, Luke, and Dr. Montague. And then A few days later, Dr. Montague's wife shows up along with Arthur, who's a teacher. They're really good friends. She's totally cheating on Dr.
Yeah.
Montague with Arthur. Like
They're
she's
really close friends.
but it's just no, they're more than friends. It's like, your husband's not very observant, but the wife is in the original adaptation, but Arthur isn't. And then what?
Yeah, Arthur's not.
Yeah, Arthur's not. But in the 1999 version, there are two characters. They're not Mrs. Montague and Arthur, but I think they're placeholders for them. They're just random. One of her name is Mary, and then I forgot the name of the guy, and they're Dr. Marrow's research assistants, but
Yeah.
they're gone after like the first night.
Which I guess it's the opposite. Instead of in the book, they come at the end. In this case, they come at the beginning and quickly disappear.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where like conveniently because there's two caretakers, Mr. and Mrs. Dudley. Mr. Dudley's in charge of like the grounds, and Mrs. Dudley is in charge of the inside of the house. So they're the only ones that have keys to the like main gates to Hill House. And then when they leave at the end of the day, they lock up and they're out. So like that's one of the things they emphasize is like once we're gone, like you're on your own until we come back in the morning. But in the adaptation, conveniently, there's an extra set of keys that after Mary suffers an accident that requires the male assistant to like drive her into town to the hospital, they conveniently have that extra pair of keys so they can leave, but they never come back, which is like her injury would have just required stitches. So theoretically, she could have come back in the morning, but
Yeah. And this is also, I feel like that this was a 90s trend of taking old movies and glorifying them. And this is an example of it in the adaptation and even in the original, but in the book, there's really no major gory deaths. There's no blood. There's no gore. And this one, there is a couple of instances of it happening. That's the first one where basically a piano wire hits her in the eye. But like you said, it's a cut.
yeah.
I'll probably get stitched up, go home.
Yeah.
It's not a spend the rest of the night away.
Well, spend the rest of the week away
That's
because
right, because
they never come back.
and they're there for a whole week.
Yeah. So it's yeah. So it's like, what's the point of these characters just to get injured and show that the house is haunted, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the other, we're gonna jump way ahead in the film. The other death is Luke's death. Luke dies in this adaptation, but he doesn't die in the book.
No, and in the book, one of the cool things about Luke is that he's actually related to the people who own the house, and there have part of his thing is proving that there's no such thing as ghosts in this house, but because he's a non-believer, he doesn't believe it. So he has that emotional tie to the house and kind of a little bit of a business interest in it. In this one, Luke is I made the joke of a random backpacker who just kind of showed up. But he's the other death when he decides to challenge the house.
Yeah. Um, there's Nell is all or Nell or Eleanor. Nell is the same person. So if we call her Eleanor, if we call her Nell, it's the same character. But yeah, in the beginning of the book, she has like the worst sister. I mean, she just has like the worst relationship with her family.
Yeah.
But she's invited to participate in the study. And so she's at like her mother, she was her mother's caretaker for many years. Her mother just died. And so when she gets the invitation to go to Hell House, she's telling her sister, like, please let me take the car so I can go to Hill House. And her sister's like, hell no. So essentially, she steals her sister's car and drives herself to Hill House. And in the in the film, she has the car already.
Yeah, like the sister's so nice at the beginning of the film. She's like, "Here's the car. Yeah, I think you should move in with us," because she knows she's aware that this whole thing happened with the mom. Um, so it's very different dynamic. In the book, the sister is mean. The brother-in-law is horrible to her. In the movie, I cannot not talk about that kid though. Jeez Louise, that kid is annoying. Oh my god.
Like he's yeah, we're talking about Eleanor's nephew. We have three nieces and one nephew, and like they're about this kid's age, and they are not annoying. And we're not being biased. Like if I had an annoying nephew, I'd say it. I mean, maybe not because not publicly in the podcast because like my brother listens. But if like I would definitely tell Orlando and I'd be like, yo, that kid is a spoiled brat and I can't stand them.
If that kid was my nephew, I'd willingly live in her house. I'd rather deal with them little ghost children than that kid. Which
Yeah.
leads to another difference. Ghost children.
There's no ghost children in the book. There's no children in the book.
Yeah, there's no children involved at all.
The children are such a major plot point of the 1999 adaptation. This whole thing of like Hugh Crane wanted to fill the house with the sounds of children, and he like carved these really scary looking children everywhere in the house. And yeah, there's no ghost children, there's no children, there's no, I mean Hugh Crane does did lose a child in the book, but it wasn't he wasn't so obsessed with filling the house with the sounds of children, and his wife just kept or his children just kept dying on him, and so he resorted to killing and kidnapping children the way he did in this adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a weird change. And there's so many ghost children and the CGI image of the what is that? The bed the is it the bed frame that has the kid
Yeah,
carvings?
yeah.
Sometimes got funny.
It did. But on it, like, I don't know how anyone could sleep in that bed. Like, if all these like scary children carvings were like just above my head, I would not be able to sleep. I think yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was all.
Um, yeah.
So I was one of the changes that bothered me at the beginning also was um Eleanor gets a phone call that tells her, look at this ad on the newspaper. And that's where she finds the ad of this experiment. They're calling it insomnia. And that's what motivates her to call and participate. The reason it ends up bothering me is because towards the end, obviously, the plot twist discovery is, it's not even a plot twist because the audience has known all along, but that's when Dr. Montag Dr.
Marrow.
Merrow. Dr. Merrow reveals what's actually been happening. And she's like, no, but you called me and told me something. He's like, nobody called you. And I'm like, the house called her? The ghost children called her? Like, who called her then?
Well, I'm guessing it was Hugh Crane that called her because she thinks Dr. Like if she heard the voice of a child.
That true. So it would have to be so
So
Ghost Hugh Crane calls her.
and tells her, look at the ad in the newspaper. But one thing I forgot to bring up when you were talking about how mean the sister and the brother-in-law are in the book, everyone is so mean to Eleanor in the book. It really bugged me. Like they were so mean to her for no reason. So I will say that is one change I liked in this adaptation and the in the original adaptation is that people were a lot nicer to her because they're like Theo is like nice to her when they initially meet, and then out of nowhere in the book is just like, can you stop, like, I don't like you, don't go with me, I don't like you, like, just she just like gets mean to her out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And that just like there was, I mean, I don't know, there wasn't anything about Eleanor that was like, why is everyone just hating on this lady so much?
She's
So
yeah, like she's a strange person, but because of what she's dealt with the mother, she's not as socially, what's the word, normalized, I guess. But there's nothing really wrong. She never says anything wrong. People just She seems to be like the kind of person that people just hate for no reason. So I will agree. I did like the change in Theo, because Theo was mean in the book, and there was times where I was like, "Why do you care about Theo?" And in the movie, you do see a lot of care, focusing specifically on this adaptation. Um, Theo cares a lot. Theo actually cares a lot about her. There is some issues with Theo's character in this adaptation. Um, there's always been a conversation of the underlying bisexuality of Theo. That has been something that's been studied in the book, which kind of briefly gets into that in the movie. Um, in this movie, though, in the 1990 movie, it felt like they needed to state it every other sentence. It was like, did I mention I'm bisexual? By the way, I like women. It was like every other sentence. Also, it's Catherine Zeta-Jones, so let's put her as revealing as we possibly can every single second. Let's over sexualize this character as much as we can.
yeah, for sure. And there another thing that's very different in this adaptation is that so any of the uh haunting aspects, the paranormal aspects, that's the word I'm looking for. Any of all the paranormal things happen at night only. In the film, they happen during the day and sometimes at night, mainly at night. But there are some like incidences that happen during the day. And in the book, it's pretty much exclusively just at night. I think the only thing that happens during the day is they find the Welcome Home Eleanor
Yes. Yeah.
painting.
Yeah.
Um, but that's it. Everything, like there's so many, like Eleanor sees something in the chimney, and then she one of Hugh Crane's ex-wives talks to her through in the form of a book. That happens in the day. The Hugh Crane does did have a wife that tragically died very young in the book, but there was no second wife, right?
Not no.
Yeah,
No,
there
there
was
was
no
not.
second wife who ran away with the baby that ended up being Eleanor's ancestor.
Yeah, because that's another difference. In this one, Eleanor's related to Hugh Crane.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really know what the purpose behind that was, because it leads to a really funny line at the end where well, what does she say? Come and get me, Grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah. She's talking to Ghost Hugh Crane and is just like, come on, Grandpa, or some, I don't know.
Well, that's too damn bad. I was expecting that from you, Craig. But yeah, that is so because of all the changes, you don't really get to know that the tree where the carriage had an accident, and that is where the wife dies, ends up being the same tree that Eleanor crashes into at the end and dies. And
Yes. So
so,
in the film she so yes, in the book she dies by after crashing to the same tree that Hugh Crane's wife's carriage crashed into, so they die the same way. In the film, she dies. She confronts Hugh Crane, and I don't know why this. There's okay. Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant.
yeah, that,
Hugh Crane.
That happened to me too.
Hugh Crane built everything in this house. He like hand chose it, selected it to keep the wonder of the children and alive or whatever. There's one thing that's out of place, and that is this store that represents mainly hell. There's like a little like a glimpse of heaven at the top, but then it mainly represents like purgatory and then hell, and there's like two guards, hell guards. I don't
Yeah,
know what
I think it's
those are.
supposed to be like the Divine Comedy, right? It's hell, purgatory, and heaven, and then the quote I believe is straight out of the Divine Comedy.
Okay.
Um,
But the there's children carvings in hell, and it's just like, oh, these hell guards are preventing the children from going to heaven. And so at the end, when Eleanor's like, come and get me, grandpa, again, I don't know why this man built like, why would you build doors in your house that represent the gates of hell? Because that's how they end up defeating Hugh Crane.
yeah,
Eleanor leads him to the doors and he gets caught by the hell guards, and so he becomes part of the door.
and it's the children, right? The children goes like, "It's the door, lead into the door,"
Yeah.
and it's like, wait, so Hugh Crane built this house and added a door that he said, "This is gonna capture me one day."
Or just maybe he wasn't thinking it was going to capture him, but like, why? I don't know. What, like, maybe he was trying to scare the children. I don't know, but I'm just
Yeah,
like that. Why would you build doors that are metaphorically and ultimately literally the gates to hell in your house? I don't know, but
yeah.
uh yeah, so that's so she leads him to the door. He gets caught by the guards of hell, and then once he's caught and all the little ghost children that are trapped in these hell doors start coming out and are just like, thank you, Eleanor, thank you, Eleanor. And then she just dies. Like,
Yeah,
she's just like, and then she like floats up to heaven with the children.
because I think you're meant to believe that Hugh Crane launched her into the door and that's how she died, but it never was clear like why exactly she just kind of died.
Yeah, she leads Hugh Crane to the door and then she just dies. Maybe she went the route of Padme Amidala and lost her will to live, and
It was like she completed her she finished her business and then that was it.
she wanted to be with the children, because that she didn't want to stay on Earth with her family, which I would understand in the book, but in the film, like Theo actually offered her to like, you don't need to go back to your sister if you don't want to, like come back and live with me. And so like
Yeah,
she has like a nice prospect of like, I have a
moving on.
friend and yeah. So
Yeah, because that's another big character change where like in the book she really has nothing. The sister hates her, the brother-in-law hates her. She's probably gonna get in trouble for stealing the car. Theo hates her. Luke doesn't care. So she really has nothing.
yeah.
And the only thing that's brought her some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of importance are these ghosts that she's seeing in this house and this belief that to the house she is important. In the movie, you don't have that.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of prospects. She could really move on.
Yeah. So it's not really clear. She dies. Her heart stops. Maybe she was more scared than she realized and her heart stopped. I don't know. But anyway, there is a very important scene that happens in the library, and there's no library in this Hill House. It's like, Hugh Crane, you built everything except a library?
No, instead, this scene happens at a greenhouse.
Greenhouse. Yeah, so there's like a spiral staircase that in this house is really old in both the book and the film, but in the book, like the spiral staircase starts detaching itself from the wall, and Eleanor has managed to climb all the way up to the top. And Luke is the one that begrudgingly goes to save her. In the adaptation, it's Dr. Marrow who, like, the spiral staircase just like starts separating from each other. It's not attached to the wall. It's just like hanging from the air,
Yeah,
and it starts
like
detaching.
cables, and the
Yeah.
cables start falling apart.
So then Dr. Marrow is the one that goes up the stairs to save her.
Which again, like that scene in the book, it serves its purpose. You know, they're trying to rescue Eleanor. But I remember in the movie, part of the funny thing is that it starts falling apart, and it ends up being Eleanor having to rescue um, Montague. And then once she rescues them, they're still at the top, and then all of a sudden, cut to the next scene, they're safe. We never see how they got down.
Yeah, there was no in the book, the stairs are coming to become detached from the wall, but Luke and Eleanor manage to make their way up and back down by going very, very slowly. So they do manage to get down without those staircase falling on them. In the film, there's they reach the top and then there's nowhere to go. So it's like, how did they get down? Did they like find vines up there that they just swung down Tarzan style? I don't know.
And if there was another opening, it's like, why didn't you go up that opening instead of going up that dangerous spiral staircase? That makes zero sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Which,
don't know.
I guess another character that I found differences in is the house. I'm gonna call the house a character. Um, in the book, the house is very much described as a regular, creepy looking house. And part of the description is that this house is massive. And because of the way the house feels, you easily get lost. It's just that. It feels heavy. It's a very intense building. So you can easily get lost in there. And there's a lot of scenes in which they're like, I don't even know how I got here. These rooms are confusing. They took that very literally in the movie. Now, the exterior is gorgeous. The exterior is very beautiful. But once you're inside, suddenly there's a room that's a river that you have to jump over blocks to get to the other side. There's a room that's like a mirror maze. And then there's what is it? The carousel.
Yeah.
There's a carousel inside a room, and then there's the nursery, which the nursery is important in both book and the movie. But they took a weird design for the interior of the house. There's a lot of statues, like you already mentioned, the little girl, and one of my favorite moments, now fighting a griffin. Now straight up is fighting a stone griffin because the griffin comes to life. And I think that's where towards the end of the movie, I'm like, wow, we got there. She's straight up attacking a griffin.
Yeah. And her her attachment to the house is literal in the film, in that she's the descendant of Hugh Crane. And like this whole backstory that we kind of touched upon, but Hugh Crane had a second wife that no one knew about somehow. And that second wife gave birth to what ended up being Eleanor's great great grandma. But after she gave birth, she ran away somehow without Hugh Crane knowing. And then eventually, along the line, I guess she probably never talked to her kids about Hugh Crane because he would talk about that man to them. And yeah, so until Eleanor was born, and all of a sudden, Eleanor's the one that Hugh Crane is like, that's the one I'm going to call back to the house. I don't know why I've never called anyone else to come to the house, but
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, it's a very literal attachment, and Orlando can talk more about the attachment in the book, but it's not a literal like she's related to the house the way she is in the film.
Yeah, and in the book again, it's it's a little bit more psychological. Um, as we have mentioned, like now has dealt with taking care of the mom for the rest end of her life. And unfortunately, this is something that is very serious that happens to a lot of people. They end up spending the rest of their life taking care of a parent, at which point they're no longer living their life. And that is what Nell was living. She was living for her mother. And part of the guilt that Nell feels is that the mom was like ringing the bell for help and Nell decided this time I'm not going. And that's when the mom dies. So there's also like a lot of psychological sense going on inside now. She, well, as we mentioned, she has nothing at home. The sister doesn't like her, and there's no friend that's offering her a place to stay. So she literally has nowhere to go. And this house becomes an invitation for her, and she suddenly feels the purpose. She feels the reasoning to live, essentially, is through this house. And then you have the house popping up with signs that say, it doesn't say welcome, Eleanor. It says her name. And she's starting to feel that these attachments are getting for her specifically. These manifestations are looking for her specifically. And she realizes that this house is where her future kind of lives. And so that's where you get into like a little bit of uh, the psychological thriller of it, where you begin to wonder how much of it was haunting, how much of it was actually in Eleanor's head, how much of it was her desperately wanting to become part of the house, um, until you get to the end where she permanently becomes part of the house by dying in it. So that it's a very different attachment, and sure, psychological things can be difficult in movie, but they did it in the 60s. So it is possible. But that was a very major difference.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any other notes that you want. I've gone through my notes, but I guess one thing. I mean, we already talked about the one thing we like, which is Theo's change. But is there uh any other change that you liked? And you're like, you know what? Whatever. I like it. Yeah. I think for me, it's I liked all the random rooms in the house. It just made it fun for me. But that's just me.
um, I think I can like this movie for what it is and what it was when I first watched it. If I try to compare it to the book, I'm just not gonna like the movie. If I see it as a separate entity, it was still bad, but it's a fun kind of bad. It's a silly kind of bad. Some of my notes were making you laugh because when we finally see Hugh Crane, like he finally manifests, I was like, okay, MCU baddie. Like he straight up looks like the next Doctor Doom with his cloak and the way the CGI. Um, so if I see it as something separate, I can enjoy it as a silly, fun movie. There's one of the things we always talk about in the horror community is not all horror needs to have a purpose. Some horror is just for fun. And this is a movie where if you're cleaning and you need some mindless entertainment just to laugh at, just to silly enjoy, it's a good one for that. So I don't hate the movie. It's just silly.
Yeah. And what is the change that annoyed you the most?
Rewatching it
Uh-huh.
was, and I get it, Catherine Zeta-Jones is a gorgeous woman, but the overly sexified tone of it. Like Luke just couldn't keep his hands off her. Every comment he had was, "Oh my gosh, she's so hot. I'm gonna go see what she's up to because she's hot." and then dropping in a bisexual line. And mind you, this was the 90s where bisexuality was kind of, what's the word, fetishized as opposed to respected. And those little things really bothered me. I did like that they make Theo nice, but it got to the point where I was like, I'm surprised at the end Theo's clothes is not more revealing. Like, surprised it didn't tear right here on her chest, a little bit on the legs. Um, yeah, I was half expecting that to happen, because just I didn't understand the need to overly sexify that character.
I'm surprised you didn't say the hand line.
Oh, the hand line! The hand line is also one of my favorite moments in the book. So basically, in the book, there's this really intense moment where they're obviously in the room, they're in the dark. And I say it's Nell and Theo, because at this point they're trying to sleep together because they're so freaked out. And they start hearing the noises, the house is getting scary, and there's this whole internal monologue with Nell because she feels Theo grab her hand. And as things get scarier, Nell keeps saying like she's squeezing so hard, she's gonna break my hand because she's squeezing so hard. Once everything stops and they turn the lights on, she looks and nobody was holding her hand. And she says the line, "Who was holding my hand?" In the movie, how do I even describe that scene?
She's getting, I don't know, she's getting haunted in her room, and at one point she get like the children are coming alive and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, watch out, Eleanor, it's Hugh Crane." And Hugh Crane's like manifesting and through like stained glass in the room. And at one point he like shoots her out of the bed, and then she's just like, "Who is holding my hand?" And that's it.
Yeah, she's literally crawling on the floor, being like, "Who was holding my hand?" It's like there was no instance of you thinking someone could hold your hand. Like you just got flung across the room. I
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, this movie is so silly, and one of the things, this is really nitpicky, but it really bugged me once I noticed, because I'd never noticed this before, and then this was the first time I noticed it, so now it just really bugged me now that I did. But so you open, so the gates of Hill House, it's wrought iron gates, fine. And then there's the crest, the Hill House crest, and there's like spikies or surrounding the crest. But you open the gates and the crest splits in half to open. So you can open the gates. So like the design is on the gates, but it can split in half so the gates can open. At one point, Luke is trying to like get out, is like trying to smash the gates down so they can leave. He drives Nell's car out of nowhere. He's like, "Nell, I need your car." And it's like, "You can't use your own car, but okay." Um, so he takes her car and he smashes it into the gates. And this just causes the full crest to fall on the door, on the roof of the car. I mean, it's like, how could the full crest intact fall into the car when it splits in half? Like, if it should at least, if it you want the whole thing to fall, at least half of it should,
like
it
half
should
on
have
the
split.
car.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
That is so nitpicky, but that just really bugged me.
yeah,
But you know what though? I still had a fun time watching it. It's
yeah,
a terrible, terrible adaptation, but I I still like it, honestly. I'm still
yeah,
gonna tell you to go watch it because it's fun.
yeah. Like don't watch it with the expectation because it's a good book. It is a great book. Don't watch it with the expectations of an adaptation of a great book. Watch it for a silly horror movie, silly fun time. Um, yeah, because like the only other thing that I put on my notes, like I wish they kept the house evil because that's part of what the book talks about, and it leaves it that way that it's evil. And Luke has that really cool closing line. I
The Hill House has stood for 80 years and will stand for 80 more.
Yeah, because it gives that characteristic. And in this movie, it's like, well, there's even a scene of the Dudleys
Mm-hmm.
coming back and seeing Theo and Montague and
Meryl.
Merrill. God darn it, Merrill. Why was that the only change? Like the only character name change?
I don't know.
But anyway, and you get the idea that, well, it's all over. They were able to traumatized stay in the house until the Dudleys came again to open the gate. But the evil is over. While
Because the evil got caught in the gates of hell.
the evil got caught in the gates of hell. But in the book, you're still feeling unsettled by the house, and the house will continue to live on, being the evil bitch that it is.
Yeah. So that being said, I rated the book 4 stars.
I think I rated the book 5 stars. It's one of my favorite books.
And I rated the film 2.5 stars.
I think 2.5.
No, you rated it 2.
I rated it 2? Okay, I rated it 2.
I was just looking at his Letterboxd score, so I know it was 2 stars. So that being said, the winner is the book. Obviously, it's going to be the book. This is a terrible film, but I still think you, like I said, watch it. It's a fun time. Like, it's mindless entertainment. And sometimes films don't need to be anything other than mindless entertainment.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need to laugh.
And you will a lot with this film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's a fun one.
It's a fun one. I still think you should watch the film. Read the book. The book is clear winner. There's no contest. But read the book because it's good. And actually, I think I rated the book 3 stars. I don't know. I rated it either 3 or 4 stars. Either way, the book is the clear winner.
Yeah, for sure.
But I still recommend the film. But I recommend the 60s version even more than the 1999 adaptation.
Yeah, like if you want a good scary movie, kind of intense, makes you wonder what's really going on, the 60s one. Just want a fun kind of horror movie, then watch the 90s one.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Books versus Movies. Next time, I will be talking about Mickey 7 and its 2025 adaptation, Mickey 17. If you like this podcast, leave it a rating and a review. Tell your friends all about it. And I will see you next time, and you will see Orlando next time we talk about either comics or horror. Expect him to be a guest anytime I talk about those things, just because I know that's his bread and butter, and he makes it fun.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for this one too, because this is really one of my favorite. The 60s one is one of my favorite movies, and this is generally one of my favorite. I was really excited to talk about it.
Of course. I feel like it would be mean to not include you. Just like it would be so mean to not include you if I ever do a Crow episode.
Oh, that's exciting.
I'm not promising anything. I'm catching up little by little.
Or you're gonna make me do the Crow remake.
I'm not gonna. I have no. We're doing the one with Brendan.
Yeah. Okay.
I have my limits. I this one I would have loved to have talked about the 60s version, but I wasn't opposed to talking about the 90s version because I do have a lot of nostalgia for it. I have no nostalgia towards the Crow remake.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So All right. See you next time.